Hey guys, welcome back. Got another video here on the 67 GTO project. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and follow along, and you'll get to see the progress on this car and many more, because there's a lot of projects in the shop here, and I'll try to do as many videos as I can. But back what we're doing here, I'm going to do a quick video here and show you guys how to make a simple repair panel for the front of your dash. With this GTO here, nobody manufactures the section of the dash that we need. The part on the car, the replacement repair piece, I should say, that they sell, it does work, but it doesn't cover enough. Unfortunately, the dash in this car, which is sitting behind me over here, the rust is too far up, so I'm having to make a panel. So what this will be, just a video showing you guys kind of the easy way to make a repair piece, just using some simple tools. The one specialty tool you would need would be a shrinker stretcher, and we'll kind of walk through that. But this is pretty simple. So I'll flip the camera around, I'll show you what we're working on here, and then we'll show you how we do this. So like I said, here's the dash. This is the panel from the 67 GTO, the steel panel. Now, this is welded into the car. This is not meant to be removed. But I had to remove it to do rust repair work on the car itself, and also on the leading edge of the dash. There's a replacement panel that's on the car already. It's welded on, but it does not come up far enough. That replacement panel comes up to, just about where my tip of my finger is here. And you can see we have a radius here that we need to duplicate as well. If I move over here, you can see why. If you looked at the previous video, you probably saw that this dash was pretty rusty, and this has crawled completely up the radius, and we just can't let this be here. If I let this go, if I repaired it with body filler like some shops will do, kind of like the last guy did, this would bubble and pop in a short period of time, and then the customer would be back in here ripping me a new one that they spent all this money on their car, and the dash is rusted. So doesn't look good for the shop. As I always say, if I'm not fixing it right, I'm not fixing it. So we're going to show you how to make this center section here. And the reason I have this in pieces is because my equipment's not big enough to make it in one piece. So I left this section here just with some scraps of steel I had laying around. They're all the same gauge, and that's why you see what you see. But I got a piece of steel, here it is right here. Got a piece of steel right here. I've already got it cut out. We'll lay this down here. So that's already cut out, and you can see I've got a line. Not only is it blued up, but I've got a line scribed on it. And what that line is for, that's going to be for the center of the radius. You know, this is to help you guys who don't have all the equipment to make something simple like this. We need to know the radius of this. Well, I found out, I think this thing is somewhere close to a 3/4 inch radius. It's real close to 3/4 inch radius, so we're talking 1.5 inches diameter. I didn't have anything in the shop that I could find that was 1.5 inches diameter, with the exception of the handle. This is about 1.5 inches, the handle on my little crash cart here. So I am going to use this to bend my steel to make that radius that's on there, and then we'll take it over to the shrinker stretcher and we'll show you how we get the curve in it. Because if you look at this piece, if you sight down the dash, you can see how it curves up and then back down again. Well, the center section's got the least amount of curve, but everything I'm going to show you follows suit for the whole thing. What I do for the center, you would just do a little more down here where the dash curves farther down. So I'm going to get this piece, I'll set the camera up so I can show you how I bend it, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what I've done here, I've got the piece clamped to that bar. And again, this is just to get the radius that we need on this piece. I've got it lined up. I've got my line lined up with about the center of this bar. And you can always tell if you've got it right when you put your clamps on. If you put your clamps in the center, when you're on a round bar, the piece will sit flat. And you can see we're sitting pretty darn flat. So we're not sitting a little cockeyed on that bar. Once you set this on here, you're going to bend it with your hands. I know it's kind of primitive, but that's the way you're going to do it. Another way you can do this, if you had a pipe, if you had whatever you needed to create the radius, you could clamp this on a bench with the sheet of steel on the bottom and the bar across the top, and then bend the steel up until you got what you wanted. But since this is the only pipe I have in the shop that's that size, I have to do it this way. So just a different way to work around it. So like I said, I'm going to get this set up. I'll set the camera up on the tripod, and then I'll show you how I bend this. Okay, I've got the piece set up on here. I'm going to go ahead and put some gloves on. This way the edges of the steel don't cut my hand. And I also am using my profile gauge. That's going to give me the radius. This is kind of the angle I need if the camera's picking it up. That's the angle I'm going to need on here. And again, I'm going to bend this a little farther than what's here because it will return back. So you just gently start pushing down with all your fingers, not just 2 fingers. You use all your fingers, and you're gently going to walk the steel down all the way. You can feel it move, and you just do a little at a time. This isn't a race. You want to get it right the first time, and you don't want to go so far that you can't correct it. So you just use your fingers, you walk it down, you grab your profile gauge. I know we're not there yet. If the camera picks it up, you can see we've still got to go a bunch more. I'm going to keep doing this and walking this down until we have where we want it. And the thicker gauge metal, this is, oh, I can't remember the gauge of this stuff. It matches the dash. I'm thinking this is 18 or 20 gauge is what the dash was. So this bends fairly easy if you've got thicker metal. Oh, my clamp just came off. If you've got thicker metal, you're going to have a harder time bending it. So again, just take your time. Let me tighten this up a little more. There we go. We'll check it with the profile gauge. Boy, that is dead on. I'm not sure if you can see that with the camera. That's where we want to be. I'm going to go a tiny bit more. Just a very slight bit more. Check it again. And there we have a little bit of a rock in it. So that means we bent it a little bit farther. So we've got that done on here. You're going to pop it off. Take it out of your fixture, however you've got it set up. And then you want to sight down the piece. And what you're doing here, you're just sighting down this piece to make sure that your piece isn't going like this from your fingers. And that's why you want to use, I use all my fingers like this, and I push on with all fingers at the same time. And it came out really, really straight. There's just one little spot right there. I can kind of go like that. And there we have it. So we have our piece. You can see that. We've got the radius in it, and it's a little more than the profile gauge, which is of the dashboard. So I'm going to move the camera here. We're going to set it up over by the shrinker stretcher, and we'll continue. Okay, we're over at the shrinker stretcher. There's one thing you always want to remember about this type of equipment. What this does is you're either going to draw the metal in, or you're going to push the metal out. You're either going to shrink it or you're going to stretch it. Now, when you're dealing with a flat piece of steel, you're only going in so far with your jaws to move the metal. The metal on the opposite side isn't being moved at all. It's being forced. It wants to stay straight. So what ends up happening is, for an example, if we shrink first, this piece will start to arc the way we want it to, this way. But what will also happen is we'll notice that since we haven't touched this side yet, we're going to get like a banana. It's going to curve the whole piece like this. And the way to bring that back is after we've shrunk this side, we come in and we stretch this side, and we stretch it until the piece straightens out. And then as you get that nice and straight, you'll then see that you have your curve that you want this way, and it's flat that way. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't matter what you start with first. If you start with, you want to shrink first, you want to stretch first. If you stretch first, the piece is going to curve the other way. It's going to curve like this, and then you would have to shrink back the opposite side to flatten it out. So it's just a different way to go about it. Either way will work just fine. Okay, I'm over at the shrinker stretcher. The one I have here is a foot operated one, and I really need to get myself another one of these. That way I don't have to keep changing the dies. Right now I've got the shrinking dies in it, but to do this piece you have to shrink and stretch. So you're going to be shrinking one side and stretching the other, because if you didn't, you have to remember when you're moving metal, it wants to follow the path of least resistance when you're starting to stretch it or shrink it. So if I was to, this is on the shrink right now, so if I was to put this in here and start shrinking this metal, what that's doing is it's taking the metal right here and it's bringing it in. It's gathering this metal up. Well, when it does that, because the bottom of the radius it's easier to move the steel down here than up here, because as this is shrinking, it has to push on the radius. So what this would do, this would actually cause this piece to start to curve like this, and you'll see it as I do it. So it doesn't really matter which you do first, if you're going to shrink first, if you're going to stretch first. This is just going to be a gradual piece. So since the shrinking die is already in here, I'm going to start with the shrinking first. Now what this will establish, when you're shrinking something like this will establish the curve. Don't worry about the piece looking like a banana when you're done. You're trying to establish the curve in the front of the dash. So I'm going to start in the center of the piece, and I'm going to move left and right real slow. Just put a little bit of a curve in it, because the center of that dash over there doesn't have a big curve. So we'll put this in here. Mine's foot operated. Yeah, we'll use that side. Put this in, kind of eyeball the center. You don't push it all the way in because you don't want your jaws to start hitting your radius. So you just grab the edge of it there. And mine's foot operated, so I'm just going to do a little shrinking here. You really got to feel it with your fingers. You can actually feel the steel move. Just don't go crazy. You got to learn how to do this with your foot. They have benchtop models, and you really got to crank down on them. This is nice because your foot, you got a lot more strength in your foot. So I'm barely moving this piece. I think we only need one more. Right about there. Okay. So as you can see, if the camera picks it up, this piece is now curved, but it's also no longer straight. We need to get it straight again. And the way we do that is on the opposite side. This side here is what we're going to have to stretch. So I got to change my dies out so that we can stretch this. You can probably see, if the camera picks it up, you can see the jaw marks here from the shrinking side. We are going to stretch this side, and you'll see as I do this, it will flatten this piece back out. We'll lose that arch. So same deal, I'm going to start right in the middle. I'm not going full depth. I'm going to go about the center of the jaw. And we're just going to slowly walk this metal. And you really got to pay attention here. And if you go a little too far, you can always shrink it back. And if you're on the shrinking side and you went a little too far, you can always stretch it back. Don't be afraid. The worst that can happen is you have to start over. No big deal. So we're going to keep working down this piece. I'm barely putting pressure on this thing. I can feel it moving. I think we've got it. Oh, I bent that with my finger. Got a little crazy with my finger there, but if you notice, we've got almost all of that out now. This thing's flat, and we're also curved the way we need to. Remember, this is going to sit, the windshield comes down here, this is the front of that dash, and it curves in the center. We know the top of the dash is flat, and I'm looking at the piece here, and it looks like I kicked it a little too much this way right here, it's a little high. I might be able to move that with my fingers. And that's what you're going to do. You're just going to kind of get it close, and then you manipulate it with your fingers, and you get it straight. You can see we're pretty straight that way. We're pretty straight that way. There's a little whoop right here. Same thing. I can just bend it with my hands. It's one of the advantages of having thinner gauge metal. If this was really thick stuff, you wouldn't be able to do it with your fingers like this. So we have a piece that we can now test on the dashboard. Okay, here's the spot on the dash. Here's our piece. And you can see, if I lay this behind here just to check it against the radius, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, that matches it really nice. And when I put it on here and made it up to this piece, you can see that's going to go together really well. This side over here is up in the air, and that's because right here next to the defroster area, right here the dash drops down. So this area drops down over to here. So I'll just have to bend this corner area by hand. Since we've got so much going on here with the defroster area, this section here, I might just come in and just at the bottom of this radius is where I might slice the old dash off and put the new piece on. So that's why you make your pieces big. You make them a lot wider, a lot longer than what you need. I've already got this finished down here. That end is finished down there, but they're way bigger than what I need. You can see I'm way over the speaker grills. I'm way over the defroster vent here. And even the piece we just made is way big. But that gives me the ability to cut it back and make it fit. And there you go. We have the dash repair finished for the 67 GTO. Came out great. I'll go across it real slow so you can see. We did the whole radius here, if you recall, and the whole leading edge. So this will get welded back into the car. But as I move down, you can see this came out great. Little to no filler will be required, and I did some extra metal finish work just so that we could do it that way. I don't like to put a lot of body filler on dash tops. This is going to be baking in the sun beneath the windshield, and I don't want to ever have any issues with excessive body filler anywhere on a car, but especially on a dash. Just like I said, I'll keep going down. We've got the recesses in for the defroster. Everything is good, nothing warped on me. Just hammer and dolly metal finish it when you're done. Take your time, do not grind through the metal. You just want to grind the welds, and if you have little tiny holes left over, you can go and fill those holes back in with weld. But she came out great. I hope this series of videos showed you that it's not too difficult to make a patch panel like this using the shrinker stretcher and really just hand tools. Other than that piece of equipment, everything else was hand tools. You got to know how to weld, you got to know how to control your heat, and you just got to take your time. I have a lot of hours in this. I know I have over 3 hours just in getting this on here and welding it. That doesn't include the metal finishing. That was just getting it lined up and slowly tacking it. And that's another point I'd like to make. As you go down on a piece like this, as you're going across, you don't want to start at one end and work your way over. This is such a long piece. We did it as one piece that you're going to want to have to, you're going to, get a corner marked, and you're just going to work your way down. You're going to go kind of like a typewriter. You're just going to go back and forth, and you're going to work your way, bop, 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 and slowly start filling the voids between each weld that you make and checking your work as you go. If there's any movement while you're welding, you can fix it then. It's easier to fix it before the whole piece is welded completely on than it is if you weld this whole thing, find out it's warped, and now you're just beating and banging on this thing forever. We'll swing around to this side so you can get a good view of this side of it. Like I said, came out great. Very pleased with it. This is going to go in the car. Fantastic. Next job for this car, as you can see, is going to be the back side of this dash. I've got to get in here, and I'm going to have to clean all this out, and we're going to coat this so that we don't have any more rust issues. So I hope this video Showed you guys how it's not too difficult to do this stuff. You can do this in your garage. All you need is a shrinker stretcher. Some of them are not that expensive. You can get them online. I think mine is an Eastwood model. I'm not plugging them, but it's a pretty good piece of equipment, and I've been buying from them for years. So hope this video helped you guys, so that way you can repair your own dash or anything that's kind of has a similar shape. It's just going to teach you the basics of what happens with a shrinker stretcher, how the metal moves, and it'll give you a sense of accomplishment knowing you fixed it yourself. So as always, like, subscribe, any questions, comments, bring them on. We'll see you soon.